All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Tuesday, July 6th, 2021, and we are watching Tropical Storm Elsa here on her final approach to the Florida coastline. Conditions already beginning to deteriorate today across the Florida Keys, where wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour have been reported. Southwest Florida is kind of next, getting in on some of those deeper rain bands, and it looks like central and northern Florida expected to kind of get in on the party later this evening as her first bands will reach that area. Also, still expected to move up the coast and landfall as a tropical storm or possibly a hurricane, a Category 1 hurricane, somewhere just north of the Tampa Clearwater area, and then crossing over through the Carolinas and out to sea by Thursday into Friday. So let's go look at the latest from the National Hurricane Center, guys. This is the 11 a.m. advisory. We're almost at about 2 o'clock. We'll see if they have the 2 p.m. update. No, they don't have it up quite yet, but the 2 p.m. updates aren't any major changes. The 3-hour increments, the 11 and 5s are your big updates. So maximum state winds right now 60 miles an hour. I do expect that to go up. Some recon data and observations are showing that her winds are a little stronger than that. Her movement is still north northwest at about 10 miles an hour. We expect that northerly motion to more become a northeast motion in the next about 12 18 hours before she makes landfall. And that central pressure, the last check was falling to about 1,000 or so millibars, maybe even a little bit lower than that via the latest from the hurricane hunters. Your watches and warnings in effect haven't really changed from yesterday. Besides, a hurricane watch has been added from Edgemont Key, which is a little key just southwest of Clearwater and the Tampa area, and up to the Steenhatchee River. And a tropical storm warning remains in effect from Flamingo, Florida, which is basically at the southernmost point of the peninsula, up to the Ocklawahnee River, which is on the kind of the upper northern end of the Big Bend on the on the blue here. So your watches and warnings really haven't changed. Oh, and a tropical storm watch has been set from the St. Mary's River to central South Carolina as well. So those tropical storm watches going up now for parts of the Carolinas, Georgia, and those likely will extend up through North Carolina tonight and into tomorrow. So let's go look at the latest on Elsa as a kind of zoomed in look. And you have a very sheer tropical storm that's really trying to go for it on one side and really not having a great time on the other side. This has been a consistent factor with her. There is a deep southwest shear that is pushing on the storm today and causing this thing to kind of, again, look a little more ragged than it normally would. You can see here partially exposed center is something we've also seen with her, these low level clouds ejecting out of the storm. And then also you can see the inflow to the thunderstorm activity near the center. But the center of the storm up under this cloud activity, and then mid-level center is probably pushed off a little bit. Probably mid-level center, honestly, is probably a little bit more over like here, I would guess. So still a little misaligned, still having some wind shear issues, and it is blowing that those cloud tops off, and it's all thanks to this upper trough that's kind of dug in over the Gulf of Mexico and water vapor. You can kind of see this trough sort of in this kind of orientation here, and these darker colors around here indicating that drier air that the trough is kind of picking up and also imparting. So it's not only wind shear, but it's also a drier air that's being pushed into Elsa. And you can almost see it outlining the storm in some capacity, but it also is helping vent the storm. So the right side of the storm, not as much impacted by the dry air. You have this nice cirrus canopy aloft in a couple sectors. So while the one side of the storm is kind of getting battered, your other side is breathing really well. So it's a bit of a give and take, and that's why Elsa, despite the wind shear, is still likely to strengthen a little bit. She's over warm water, and she does have that ventilation aloft. So the shear keeps her in check, but it's helping a little bit. We can show you those wind gusts from earlier. Key West at about 11:51 this morning recorded a 61 knot wind gust, or actually that was a little bit earlier, I think. But yeah, 61 knot wind gust, which is a 70 mile an hour wind gust. That sort of takes the cake for our actual land stations today. And this was as Elsa's core passed by a few hours ago. So definitely sustained wind well in a tropical storm force, and that gust to 61 knots, or about 70 miles an hour. Current conditions here across southwest Florida. You can see that overall not too bad right now. We'll go ahead and refresh this here. Naples and whatnot. West Palm Beach, a gust to 26 miles an hour. Fort Lauderdale, 26 miles an hour. Pembroke Pines, Miami, all getting those gusty winds to about 25, 30 miles an hour this morning. And some of the offshore stations, such as San Key, observing 48 knots, so about 50, 55 miles an hour for their gusts. So definitely a pretty pretty rough day as this thing comes through. It's definitely producing some fairly quality weather. Hurricane hunters in the storm right now, as we mentioned earlier, they are finding some pretty strong winds aloft. They flew through the storm, they flew through that center, and now they're coming up through the worst of the storm, the biggest, deepest convection, which is right here. Central pressure they found was near 1,000 millibars, and that's always assumed to be a bit undersampled. So her central pressure probably about 998 or so, which is definitely falling from what it was when she left Cuba. So the storm is deepening her pressure and is strengthening despite the wind shear. You can see some of the wind barbs over the last few frames here from Tropical Tidbits. Again, use his website a lot. It's a great site. Definitely recommend you follow it and use it if you're looking for weather stuff. But the last couple of frames is flight level winds getting near 65 to 80 knots, which is I think that at 2 or 5 p.m. they'll probably go ahead and upgrade this to a hurricane or at least a very, very strong tropical storm. They'll probably kick the winds up to at least 70 miles an hour because I think that you've got a couple bands here where that's happening. I can look at the Key West radar to kind of show you another illustration where some of this nastier weather is. You'd have bands like this, and then bands like this, where you have the highest reflectivities and kind of where the worst of that wind is setting up. Now, the problem Elsa has, though, again, is that wind shear where you have the southwest wind. You can watch the edge of the center right here. How the storms try to wrap around and they just get buffered back. They can't really advance past like a certain line, where there's just no passing this line where that wind shear is pushing the tops of the clouds off and not letting her get her winds going. So that is kind of the issue Elsa has. But I think despite that, you will see a bit of an upgrade. I mean, it's right about 2 o'clock. I can see one more time if we're going to get the update from the Hurricane Center. Nope. So maximum sea winds are 70 miles an hour. Okay. Yep. So there we go. Um, and yeah, here we go. Hurricane warning for a portion of the west coast of Florida. Man, y'all saw that live with me. Isn't that cool? And I swear I haven't seen that yet. Y'all saw me refresh the page. So yeah, there we go. We're using this take no matter what now. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to your updates and impacts as far as what was changed there. Not too much has changed in some of the impact theory, what to expect. I think the biggest thing is Tampa Bay right now, 3 to 5 foot storm surge. I think that's going to go to 4 to 6 with her being a hurricane, or even 5 to 7 possibly. I think that Tampa Bay is really going to get smacked by this. If you look at the actual track, we'll go back to the graphic here, and you can see that the track forecast. Right now, most of the tracks bring her just north of Tampa Bay. And what that does is it really puts the worst of the surge right here into the bay. So again, you move up and you have all the southwest surge, and Tampa Bay is mostly open to the southwest. So I think you're not only going to have probably hurricane force wind gusts screaming into that bay, you're going to have all that water being pushed. Like if she landfalls like this, then your Tampa Bay surge is much lower because now your winds are rotating offshore. But because she's landfalling north of Tampa Bay, most likely, your winds are rotating right up into that bay. I think Tampa Bay is going to get a surprising storm surge that maybe isn't being reflected in the forecast. So we'll see how close that is. But I think anywhere near Tampa Bay, Clearwater, St. Pete, you need to make sure you're getting away from the coast because it's not going to be pretty in that region, it appears. And again, 3 to 5 foot around the Big Bend as well, Steinhatchee and Cedar Key and whatnot, Horseshoe Beach, probably exactly where the storm will come ashore, and 2 to 4 feet elsewhere where a lot of that water rise already in effect. And then a 1 to 2 foot surge is going to be expected along the North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia coasts. But for now, it does not appear that there'll be a significant storm surge. The storm will be over land, so the winds are kind of pulling water instead of pushing water. It's not as efficient, so you won't see a crazy storm surge there. Wind gust forecast, it kind of still remains to be seen, but right now our model's kind of over and undershooting it in some regions. The GFS kind of showing you a low end expectation, and these will come up. 35, 45, 55 is what the model's showing. That's definitely going to come up. I think the European model has it a lot better for the coastal wind gusts in Florida, where you're seeing those 65, 75, a 78 near where she comes ashore in the Big Bend. You're going to see some wind gusts 75 to 80 miles an hour. I think that's definitely going to be likely. I'm not sure the hurricane force winds will really show up in a sustained fashion, but you'll probably see as wind gusts the winds worst case sustained 60, 65 at the coast, and then those gusts to 75, 80 miles an hour. And whatnot on the coast, but also the European model. If you're looking at this in Georgia or North Carolina or something, going, whoa, what is this? This model is grossly. I'm just gonna do this, so don't look at this. Just don't. It's fine. But the coast, your 40s and 50s along the coast, very possible on the coastal counties where you'll see those winds coming in off the water. But Euro overestimating the hell out of the inland lands because it thinks this trough is just going to keep deepening the storm. It's something this model does. Don't worry about it. So the GFS will show you this is actually a better representation interpretation of what you're going to see inland with tropical storm force gusts possible southeast Georgia, 35, 45 miles an hour, kind of the same thing we expect for northeast Florida as she kind of weakens as she comes in. Maybe a little bit higher in the north central Florida, kind of near Georgia's border, like Lake City sort of region, and then closer to 25 35 for most of the inland areas, and that immediate coast a little bit higher, probably about 35 45 as well. And then again, like I said, the euro grossly overestimating. But don't sleep on this. The Virginia Tidewater in the Outer Banks, you get some gusty winds as well as she does move offshore. Excessive rain is going to be an issue. Day one look, Western Florida in a moderate outlook, which is a 20 to 50% chance of excessive rain within 25 miles of a given point. Definitely going to be some serious flooding concerns. Rainfall totals right now looking for another about 3 to 6 inches along the Western Florida coast, about 2 to 4 inches in Northeast Florida, and about 1 to 3 inches in Southeast Florida. And then you can see the rain total spreading, generally 2 to 4 inches across a wide swath of the Carolinas and southeast Georgia, where those excessive rainfall outlooks extend. Day two, you'll have those moderate outlooks for coastal Georgia and southern coastal South Carolina, and then by Thursday, you'll have a slight risk for the North Carolina area there. So a the flooding rain outlooks are going to stay with you, and these are very heavy tropical rains. And as I've said before, if I said you're looking at 4 to 6 inches of rain or 3 to 6 inches of rain, you need to think, well, I could see up to a foot. You always take the high end of the range of the widespread totals, and then you double it, and that's what you could see in a tropical storm if you just get crushed. If you're unlucky, and say this one rain band, like this one right here, just picks you and it just sits over you for 3 or 4 hours, I mean, you can get a foot of rain. I mean, it is definitely possible. So don't sleep on the rainfall totals. And if you see a number of like 2 to 4 inches, always think I could get, double the top end of that as my like high echelon expectation. So that's something to keep in mind there. If you want more information, guys, for your local forecast area, most of the local weather offices, Jacksonville, Morehead City, Charleston, Savannah, etc., are all doing, they all have local weather briefs up, or they will have them up soon. For example, this is Jacksonville's. It's pretty good, and it really kind of shows you in a PowerPoint detail. It has some nice maps, and it gives you a lot of good information, especially like for like our area here, Northeast Florida, the yellows 39 to 57 miles an hour, and then the yellows 58 to 73 is the high end potential. Shows you tornado potential, all that fun stuff. And if you go to the National Weather Service's homepage, which is just weather.gov, you can put in your zip code, put in your city right here in the search box, and then you'll have, I'll just do mine real quick for you. And right at the top of the page right here, you should see the latest briefings, or you'll see them over here. So definitely check those out if you're looking for some more information for your area. If you got a friend in a certain area and you want to kind of look and see what their local area might expect, this is a very good tool to use. Also, social media, if you just search NWS and then city, you're probably going to find a city or pretty close to what you're looking for. And those weather offices also putting a lot of stuff on social media, so definitely check them out. And if you want to ask me in the comments, whatever, I'll try to do my best to answer you for any local impacts or advice. And I don't have it up, but we also wanted to check out the Storm Prediction Center real quick. Yeah, they are showing, the tornado risk here. I don't think they have any watches out yet, but that slight risk with the tornado hatching is about 5% for most of the state. And a lower tornado risk, most likely, yeah, a lower risk going into Tuesday or Wednesday and Thursday, but definitely a risk of tornadoes from Florida to North Carolina over the next couple days as this moves through. We'll probably get watches set later today for, Southwest Florida. Oh, there it is. Yep, there's tornado watch Southwest Florida, man. It's almost like I've done this before. But yeah, so large tornado watch up for the southern part of the state. So keep that in mind as we go through the next couple days. So anyway, guys, what I got for you today. As always, thanks for watching. Stay safe, and we will check in tonight with the latest on Elsa. And have a good one.